For social media users joining us online and in the audience, please follow us at Nat Urban League on Facebook, Instagram, and Threads, and take a moment to update your social media platform using the hashtag NULCONF25. Don't forget to scan the QR code on the screen to download our 2025 National Urban League Conference app, or search the National Urban League in your app store. That will enhance your experience here this week. The app offers easy access to schedules, networking opportunities, and real-time updates. Ladies and gentlemen, please be advised that we are live streaming this event. We kindly ask that you remain mindful throughout the program, and as a courtesy to our speakers and viewers, please take a moment now to silence all mobile devices. Thank you. And now, please welcome Tyler Litt, President, National Urban League Young Professionals.
Good afternoon, and welcome to this year's Young Professionals Plenary. We are the leaders we have been looking for. We're so glad that you're here with us today. And we have an amazing conversation ahead that will leave us even more fired up and inspired to tap into our power as leaders to make real differences in our communities. Now, please welcome to the stage a leading political strategist, commentator, and activist known for her work in political advocacy, social impact, and racial equity, Angela Rye.
Good afternoon, Urban League. It's always so good to be in a room full of folks that went to Black church. That's a great thing. Hallelujah. Okay, so today is the Young Professionals Plenary. The title is We Are the Leaders We Have Been Looking For. For some of us, we are wondering how much longer we will sit at our grandmother's kids' tables. I, for one, am 45 years old. I'll be 46 soon, but I'm happy to be with the young professionals. I'll fake it till I make it. Y'all, some of y'all understand you got some grandmothers that keep you at the kids' table, but the kids still get the work done. So, I am joined by some amazing individuals today. We're going to jump right into this conversation. To read their bios at length, you should look at the Urban League Conference app. You can also Google them, handy dandy Google. Joining us first is Dr. Eddie Glaude Jr. He is the James S. McDonald Distinguished University Professor at Princeton University. Let's give it up for Dr. Glaude. Next joining us is my little brother, but my boss. His name is Vincent Evans. He is the Executive Director of the Congressional Black Caucus. Vince got some fans. All right, Vince. He said, please. Next, we have another brother of mine. He would say that I'm the bossy one. His name is Reverend Dr. Jamal Harrison Bryant, the senior pastor of New Birth Missionary Baptist Church, and one of our leaders of the Target Fast. All right now. Next we have Nick Harris, who's the Vice President of Strategic Initiatives and DEI. Some entities kept DEI, y'all. Human Rights Campaign. Nick, join us now. And we also have Gennaro Stewart, Director of National Security and Policy at the Pentagon and the conference co-chair for the National Urban League Young Professionals. Y'all give it up to our panelists. Oh, I sure did. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to do that. This is a brother from another mother, Dr. Jay Barnett, to make sure that our mental health is right. Clearly mine is not, to forget him. He is the author of Just Heal, Bro. Clearly, Just Heal, Sis as well. Welcome, Dr. Jay Barnett. All right, y'all. Well, you look very buttoned up and ready to go. Y'all ready to loosen up and get into some conversation? Y'all good? Oh, yeah. Okay, y'all not even gonna use your mics. That's wonderful. Okay, we're gonna get started with We Are the Leaders We've Been Looking For. I wanna start first because I actually think this is an interesting social experiment. If you all wouldn't mind sharing your ages, I just wanna break the ice a little bit. The Young Professionals panel. Starting with you, Dr. Glaude.
I'll be 57 in September.
Yes, come on. Oh, there's Dr. David Johns in the audience. We will have call and response whether we ask for it or not. Very good. Vincent Evans?
I'm 37.
Okay, Vince qualifies as a young professional. Dr. Bryant?
Me too. I'm 53.
53.
Me too. No, I'm playing. I'm 40.
Okay, you just barely eking it out. I'm gonna let you have that.
We're 40.
We're 40, okay.
43.
All right, I think we missed it.
I
But
don't
we're
think
gonna
Jay's really 43, but we're going to go with it.
Okay, well, I wanted to start on a lighter note because as y'all know, the environment we're in right now is very heavy. There's a lot going on. Black folks are fighting battles on every side. Young professionals, I think, more often than not, are being forced to carry what it means to navigate your career path and carry the weight of what it means to be the conscience of this country that continues to act like it would prefer not to have a conscience. So, Dr. Glob, maybe you can just ground us in some of this because I know in some of the work that you've been doing, they said that your book offers the blueprint for we are the leaders we've been looking for. So how do you respond to that conundrum that many Black folks experience, that dual and double consciousness that folks have been wrestling with for centuries?
Yeah, first of all, it's just a delight to be here, to be in conversation. I was actually quite surprised that I would be at a young professional. I'm kind of happy about that. I'm going to accept it. Look, I think it's important for us to understand that what Du Bois described about us is actually a consequence of the nation. That the nation itself experiences a kind of double consciousness in the sense that it imagines itself at once as a beacon of freedom and as a white republic. And those two things are colliding all the time. And we find ourselves in a moment where there's an assertion of the whiteness of the republic, that freedom is the possession of white folk to give and to take away. Yeah. And that has been the history of the country in these kind of dark cycles. And so part of what I think I've been trying to argue is that we've been looking to people to do the work, when if we follow the insight of Miss Ella Baker, one of the brilliant minds of the 20th century, if we follow her insight, she says, so strong people don't need strong leaders. That we're the leaders we're actually looking for. And that part of what we have to do is to create the context within which people can begin to take responsibility for the kind of lives that they want to live. That doesn't mean we don't need leadership, but to understand our capacities to contribute to the world that we want. So I wanted to write a text in a way that in some ways dealt with my own anxieties with regards to Malcolm. I came of consciousness with Malcolm. That's why I have my goatee. I went to Morehouse. I was baptized in King's Waters. I had to figure out where do they end and where I begin so that I could find my voice in this moment, because I think we all need to find our voices in this moment.
And Vince, we don't have a choice but to find our voice in our work. I think many people won't know, but you do the work of the conscience of the Congress every single day. But you also were a loyal foot soldier and a key part of what we built with State of the People. I want to talk about what call exists on your life that you're answering, and how you can encourage other young professionals who are like-minded or who need to be like-minded to do something similar.
First of all, I'm glad to be here. I am a young professional. I'm Thursday Network, longtime member, so it's good. It's T and it's here. I am seated between two of the most brilliant brothers in Black America. So forgive me if I'm a little giddy. I have two of the most brilliant minds that I'm seated between. I've been thinking a lot about this. I've traveled all summer with Angela Rye across the country and many of the folks here at State of the People talking to Black people in America about what we need to do. And for me, while I work in politics every day, I'm very proud of the vanguard, the leadership that the Congressional Black Caucus is putting up in this moment. I am clear that Congress cannot save us. A party cannot save us. I'm clear about that. The work we're doing every day, it's a stopgap. We're holding the line. I left Washington this morning. When I left, there was a vote that is still open now for them to take yet another $9 billion. We're doing the best we can, but that alone will not solve it. I count myself as a member. There are two political parties in this nation. One is the party of ill will, and the other is the party of goodwill. I am a member, full-fledged, pledged, dues-paid member of the Party of Goodwill. And in this moment, a lot of us consider ourselves members of the Goodwill Party. But what I would submit is that in this party, and I'm one of the co-conveners of it, it requires more than just coming and sitting in the conference. It requires more than, as Baldwin, who I know you lead and study and have told us about, putting your feet under fancy folks' table. Those are your words. I've studied you. I've read you. It requires more. A lot of us mean well, but we have got goodwill requires more of us in this moment. It requires stepping out on faith and deciding that I am going to lead, along with other sisters and brothers around the country, a boycott of one of the nation's largest retailers in this nation, whether people like it or not. So what I'm suggesting in this moment is that we can't just merely show up to the fight in our good clothes. We cannot just show up to the fight to speak. It's not enough for me just to sit on the stage here today. When I leave here, I'm going with Angela Rye to a Black Leaders meeting, because the work does not happen on this stage. The work happens outside of the room. It happens in the 12 cities that we visited. It happens in the jails that we went to this summer. It happens in the mutual aid that we delivered for real people this past summer. That's where the work is, and that is what we have seen that people want. So I'm all about the civic engagement. I'm all about coming here. I'm all about the work that we are doing. I just simply have been saying the work in this moment requires, Angela and I were up the other night at 2, 3 in the morning talking about the work requires a level of sacrifice, the likes of which we've never seen.
Well, that's Deacon Vince Evans, y'all. And he's just getting started now. Jamal, unfortunately, this is not the benediction, so you can't close us out. You got to carry us through.
Me and Jay can switch seats.
Yes, you got to. Oh, okay. You like, I want to be the close. So we'll come back around.
I'm joking.
But I want to, this is, I think, so important what Vince just hit on. It reminded me of this conversation that I had early on with someone in the State of the People that said that if me or Tamika call, people will answer, and it's not fair because she's been trying to do some of the same things. We ended up talking at 3 in the morning for an hour and a half. But I was like, you haven't seen the work that it took to get to where me or Tamika or Vince or Eddie Glod or Jamal is. So your work didn't begin with the Target Fast. Your work didn't begin with pastoring at New Birth. Your work didn't begin with pastoring at Empowerment Temple. Your work didn't begin even at NAACP in the Youth and College Division. So can you talk about the importance of journeying through, even when you may be working in obscurity, because those are the seeds that are planted for the harvest that you reap in a Target Fast, because we know they're going to answer the demands appropriately.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everybody. Let me say to you, my Uncle Charles just retired from being a high school football coach. And he retired about 6 years ago. And he said, Jay, he had to stop because it was the worst athletes he had ever seen. And he had been a coach since the 1960s. And I asked him why. And he said, Eddie, because this generation learned how to play football through video games and not on the field. So they wanted to put on the uniform but didn't want to run. And so what is happening in the disconnect is people are taking leadership from reels without knowing what is the steps in the process.
Yes.
And so something has to happen that we're not just giving the highlight footage without showing what is the labor and what is the sacrifice behind it. I am just coming yesterday from the NAACP convention and coming here to our Urban League, and I am seeing a consistent theme of the graying of black leadership. And there is no revolution that has ever happened in the history of the planet that young people weren't on the head of it.
Yeah.
But the tension is, Angela, I'm a former National Youth Director at NAACP. The tension is this is the very first time in American history where we have more 60-year-olds than 16-year-olds. That they're more senior centers than middle schools. And so what is incumbent upon us is how do we build multi-generational leadership so that we can advance it together. So we've got to fight the dismantling of the Department of Education, but we also have to contend with the crucifixion of Medicare. Two different generations are at stake, and both of them will have to lend themselves. So I learned as a product of the Black church, and I come out of the product of the NAACP, where the overwhelming majority of this generation comes through neither.
Yeah.
And so we got to figure out how do we corral them in when this is the largest demographic of Black people since we've been in America who do not subscribe to organized religion. We're at 27%. This is the largest demographic of Black people who self-identify as atheists, 7%. And so for those who don't ascribe to the NAACP, don't ascribe to the Urban League, don't ascribe to Jesus, how do we meet them? Because in the civil rights era, they were trained at Fisk and at TSU and at Howard and at Morehouse. But now this generation is coming together through TikTok, through Threads. They're saying at 12 noon, meet us at City Hall, and 1,000 people are there. The NAACP took you through a regimented study on what to do before you sit at that lunch counter. Before somebody slaps you upside the head, before it is that they unleash the fire hose, you have to write the number of the lawyer on your wrist so you know what to do. It's a different kind of organic process where we're going to have to use our number one weapon is social media, and we have regulated it to only fans where we have to create only activists. How do we use social media at our advantage to train our own terror cells to be weapons against white supremacy? And so if we're only doing it to post food and shoes and the Cowboy Carter concert, then we're really missing on what do we do to organize against Target.
Don't get mad. Don't get mad. Y'all can keep your picture.
Go.
Keep your picture.
I ain't saying don't go. I'm saying let's do both.
The Beehive about to sting you right here
let me get off
on
now.
the stage.
Yeah.
But the point is not, it just can't be just
It just
Cowboy
can't
Carter.
be that.
Right.
Yes, thank you.
Um,
I'm tagging you in.
Yeah.
right.
I was going to say leave Beyonce out of it.
Wait. David, you are not helping.
King, yeah.
As the people say, David, please. We about to have to get David a seat and a mic up here. But really quick, I want to come to you, Nick, because one of the things that Jamal just mentioned was the multi-generational essence of our movement. But there also is another piece that is often missed, especially when you reflect on how civil rights history is told. Women were very present, but were very absent. Even on this stage right now, and no shade, but maybe a little shade to Urban League, we are the only two women on this stage. Oh, and then some snaps down from right here. We'll take the snaps. We know that y'all are with us, brothers. But I think it's important to understand and to emphasize when you're talking about intersectionality in movements, you have to have voices that represent the causes, the concerns of varying factions of our community, because even though we should be united, and are in many ways united, there are still some different challenges that we all must meet. How do you propose young professionals go about that?
So I appreciate that question. First of all, I'm Black, I'm queer, I'm non-binary, I present masculine of center, so my existence is very political. So we'll start with that. What I want to say is, how did I get to my level of civic engagement? I would love to tell you it started at a protest or a rally. It started in my living room and in my home. Before I can go out and fight the world, I have to sometimes fight with my family and my own people and ballrooms that look like this, because folks don't often see me. And so I have to say this, based on my age demographic, I'm all about feelings. I was talking to Jay back there getting a whole therapy session.
I love that.
But Jay Shetty recently shared that to be in a good, healthy relationship, you need to feel safe, seen, and supported. So before any of us can do that, we have to have those three things. And so what I want to sort of speak to is the fact that when I say it started with my family, my grandfather passed away 3 years ago. He was 102 years old. I am a third generation FAMU Rattler. My grandfather, come on Rattlers out here.
Strike again.
Strike again and again and again. My grandfather.
I better strike that president, but keep going.
Agreed. Facts. We won't run from that. Facts. The reality was, when I talk about my first engagement started with my family, my grandfather was a proud black man, a teacher and a pastor who taught me how to show up for my blackness. My mother taught me how to show up for my womanness. So I was able to do that. And it was wonderful until I had to show up for who I love and how I identify. So what I want to be clear on is, when I look out here, I can see, even with these lights, I do not believe most of you are 40 plus. And so when I think about right now, Gen Z identifies, a third of Gen Z identifies as being LGBTQIA plus. And so sometimes what I want to say is, I want you to see yourself, not just in this panel, because I'm going to have a moment of honesty. I was at the DNC with the Human Rights Campaign, and I was in the fan club trying to get a picture and a moment with you. I was just recently at my church conference, and I was sitting in those seats listening to this pastor deliver a sermon, and yet I'm sitting up here on this stage. Don't ever lose track of your purpose and your passion, because you don't know where you will end up to be sharing a message. So I want you to truly see yourself in this movement, because I was watching you and everybody else on TV and going viral. And sometimes I'm like, well, how can that be me? But when your purpose and your passion aligns and you live authentically, I have a deep faith. I believe whatever you believe, your higher power, but for me, God will take you to wherever you're supposed to be. So now, get rid of the imposter syndrome. Understand that we're relying on each of you sitting in those chairs, and before it starts with the administration, it may start in your household, having the deep conversation. And so I just want to say, see yourself, lean into purpose and passion, and wherever God places your feet, you are meant to be there.
Thank you so much, Nick. So, Gennaro, one thing that Nick just mentioned is seeing yourself. And I think one of the challenges, often, especially for young professionals, is this idea that you are your job, you are your profession, you are the title that you're wearing. How is Urban League working to ensure that they see themselves as individuals and as a part of the fabric of the Black community, and a very necessary piece to this movement going forward?
Yeah, I think a perfect example is the young professional organization in itself, really being that foundational bedrock to introduce young people into civic organizations, civic engagement, community service, really seeing them in their communities. A lot of times we can find ourselves in our careers and our jobs and see ourselves separated from the realities and the impacts that are happening to Black people around the world, and specifically in your particular area. So I think the Urban League does a great job with its young professionals to help you zero in on moving you away from your job and truly understanding the impacts and the way in which you can now impact your community. I can remember living in the Washington, D.C. area, utilizing organizations like Thursday Network, going out, working with the local community that had different issues. You had individuals who may not have had the education to be able to articulate their frustrations about, my trash is not being picked up, this issue is happening. But to have these young people who are poised, who can speak to those issues, to give voice to that elderly individual who has made this issue over and over and over again and nobody cares to listen. You now have that young lawyer who says, no, I'm going to advocate on behalf of this individual, so you make their issue your issue. So using organizations like NAACP, as well as the young professionals, to understand this is not a separate issue. You're part of that issue. As you mentioned, we're all Black. We're all in this thing together. So use your voice to not only advocate for your own issues, but understand this is my brother, this is my sister, and we're in this together.
So I'm gonna ask you to expound on this a little bit more, and I'm reflecting back on part of what Vince was saying earlier. When you consider the long history of the young professionals entity inside of the Urban League, when you see what's happening now, how are you challenging your peers to meet the moment differently? Because I keep referencing, Fat Joe says, yesterday's price isn't today's price. Well, yesterday's response is not today's response. So we have to pivot. What is the way that you all are pivoting?
Yeah, I think we are constantly evolving. I think oftentimes the way we may have done things 50 years ago may not be necessarily the most effective way today. One beautiful thing I often tell people out of COVID is that you saw a lot of churches that never used Zoom, never used PayPal. They evolved. They had to learn because they were forced to do it. And unfortunately, sometimes things like pandemic or changes in the environment forces you to evolve. And we as a group have to continue to understand that the way things have historically worked is great, but we have to be prepared for that pivot, and we have to be open to new ideas. And also younger minds might have a new approach. I oftentimes tell people when we get in these debates about the old versus the young, just because you happen to be old doesn't necessarily mean you have wisdom, but also just because you happen to be young doesn't mean you have vision. So there's a place for both at the table to really understand and see where they can help support each other in moving forward.
That's good. Okay, Dr. J, help us, because it's hard times. So it feels like we're living in a constant code red. 60 years of civil rights advancements were rolled back in the first 7 months of this administration we find ourselves in. And so some of us are traumatized. And that trauma is not new. We have been a traumatized people in this country for 400 plus years. How do you respond with how we navigate balancing our mental health needs with meeting the moment right now?
That is a great question. I think one of the brothers said that the government won't save us. We will have to save ourselves. And I think one of the things that I've been pushing as I am talking with so many young professionals and working with so many corporations, there's a level of exhaustion that people are experiencing now that they're not even able to articulate. And one of the most traumatic things is when someone has told you and your family to pursue the American dream, but you discover that it was a nightmare. Mm-hmm. And how do we really balance people to understand that as much as we are traumatized, maybe that part of this work would be expanding our capacity. And expanding our capacity in the way that it may not end as soon as we want it to, knowing that we have what we have in the office and in the administration. And I think for young professionals, I think you said it very poignantly, one of the things that I tell young professionals is build a healthy community that will allow you to have the space to not only unpack, but just allow you to have the space to have a human moment. I think we have not focused on our humanity. We've been focusing on achieving, as I tell, it's particularly for us as Black people. We have been in a space of achieving and not really healing. And what happens is that we have gotten to the space of where our careers have taken us, but we're still wrestling with so much of the trauma that has been impacted through our generation. And I think right now, what is happening is most of us are so exhausted that we're not able to really even decide if we want to keep fighting. You know, and how do you teach young people to carry the torch of the social justices that we are fighting when they don't feel like they have the capacity to do it? And we grew up in an era where I don't think we knew what we were feeling, but we knew how to manage it. They know what they're feeling, but they don't know how to manage it, which is why crash out culture is growing. And I think as much as we're talking about the state of the people, we also have to consider the state of the mind. Mm-hmm. Because when you have to get up to not only fight for your family, but also to fight a system that you don't feel like it's going to change, you have young people that are saying, man, I would just rather tap out. Mm-hmm. And I think as much as we are wanting to heal our people from these political challenges that we're facing, we have to couple that with some form of therapeutic care. And this is what I love, that most churches that I have talked to the pastors, I'm saying, Pastor, 90.1% of Black people would rather go to church than to go see a mental health professional. Mm-hmm. And I think it's important that churches and social groups and activists, as much as we are wanting to expand the minds of what we're facing, I think it is important for us to help these folks understand that you have to be well here. Because it's heavy. And then also for the young people, I want to close with this. It doesn't have to be you. It's okay to say, you know what, maybe I can join an agency and offer a helping hand and maybe support. But I think so many of us are taking on these roles that we feel like we have to be Superman and Superwoman. And what is happening is we have these capes on, and these capes are literally choking us. And some of us are trying to jump off of buildings and fly, and these capes have holes in them. And sometimes it's okay to just say, well, maybe this is not a fight that I can fight, and maybe I can get behind it and support it in a different way. And I think that would minimize our anxiety, because, I mean, you can walk into a room now and just feel the anxiety from people. You just come off their body. And we're in such a fight or flight mode, no one knows how to be still.
Yes. I am feeling challenged by that because I do not feel called to be still right now. It's hard to, and Dr. Glad, I want to come back to you because we are in this moment where it feels like our stillness could mean our death. It could mean, tragedy, on every side, even more than what we're seeing. We have someone who is lying every time he opens his mouth. They have folks who are supporting this policy that is causing us harm. And as Vince said, that they're working to mitigate the harm every time they go on the floor, but it's not advancing what we need to really thrive. Yeah. So I wanna just stay here for a moment about what leadership looks like for the individuals who are sitting in these seats, and how we can start leading in a way that is more cohesive. It is not every man, woman, or person for themselves. There's a Chinese proverb that says, if you lead and ain't nobody following you, you taking a walk. They didn't say ain't, but you following me. The point is, at some point we have to figure out we are so much stronger together, and we have not learned that lesson yet.
Right. I'm trying to just digest so much truth and so much wisdom that's been said here. I think we have to begin to understand that solidarities cannot be presupposed. Solidarities have to be made. Yeah. Oftentimes we presume that because we're black folk, we're supposed to be working together. And then we don't really deal with the fact that black folk are just as complicated as other people. We got folk who are interested in, they're selfish, they're patriarchal, they're homophobic, they don't want to engage, they might be actually more identified with the ill will folk than the goodwill folk. But we assume that because they're black, by definition, they should be oriented in a progressive way. And that makes us apolitical in so many ways, because you just presuppose it. And then you don't do the hard work of what it means to build solidarities in the moment, with the understanding that today you and I might be right beside each other, and tomorrow we might be against each other, depending upon, so we got to deal with the complexity of who we are. And then the second thing I would say really quickly is, let's not interpret stillness as doing nothing.
That's good. That's good.
Stillness is actually being present in the moment. Not worried about the wounds of the past or catastrophizing about what's possible in the future, but dealing with what's right in front of you and being still enough to kind of grasp its meanings. I just wrote the preface to the new biography of James Lawson, the memoir of James Lawson, the mastermind of all of that nonviolence in Nashville and across the board. And one of the things he did, he had a list of what he used to teach the students. It's just amazing to see. And he said, there's all of these different things, and then he says, there's education. And in the aspect of education, he located the march. He said the march was the period of education. Civil disobedience came next. So the march was that moment where we focused ourselves, where we engaged in the mobilization and the organization of folk. It was the moment of education. We get stuck. We're stuck there.
Yeah.
So we think that's all we got to do is march. And then he said the next stage is civil disobedience. And civil disobedience include a kind of radicalization of the confrontation. It involves sit-ins, it involved boycotts, it involved general strikes, it involved actually disobeying unjust laws. But we've stuck at the march. And so we got these folk who aren't being socialized in a particular way, and we got to ask ourselves, why? Right? We got to ask ourselves why. And so I'm actually sitting here thinking about this moment, right? What will you bring to the table? What's your skill set? How will your skill set introduce a different imaginative kind of center of gravity? And you have to value that as you walk into the room. Not that you know everything, but that you're bringing a very different perspective.
And that perspective can open up how we might struggle in this moment and not just simply imitate what we've done in the past.
I want to come back to this panel, but I know we have to open this up for questions.
Sorry, I talked too long.
No. That was perfect. It was perfect. If you all can give it up for the panel and then get your questions ready. My ask is when you come to this mic right here in this aisle, that you say your name, where you're from, and that you ask a question. If you're struggling to get to the question, I will help you get to the question more quickly. So if you can, come to the mic. And while y'all are doing that, I'm going to take a personal point of privilege. Jalen Anthony Rose, stand up. Stand up. I want to shout out Jalen, because before he was a young professional, now he's an old professional too, but before that, he was a college student at Michigan as a part of the Fab Five, and to me, they are one of the best examples of resistance and what it means to treat yourself as worthy. So I just want to shout you out, Jalen. Is this a question or an argument? What's happening right here? Is there a question? There's a question? Okay.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. First off, I want to say thank you. My name is Quinicia Bland. I go by Big Qui. I'm an artist at Clark Atlanta University, and I'm a college ambassador for the National Urban League.
All right.
So I want to say thank you to begin.
Thank you.
My question is, being that I'm a part of the young folk that we were just speaking on, and the ones who need to use our individual voice to help communicate with our audience about everything that y'all are talking about, how do we educate ourselves to then educate others? Like, even the way y'all are speaking is using words and phrases and things that I've never heard of. So besides reading, of course, because they think black people don't read, but we do, what else should we be doing to educate ourselves today so we can go and educate our people?
Anybody want to take the question?
Hi, Big Qui. I'm going to step in for just a moment. What I would say is, when I think about, you were just talking about also social media and all of that, diversify who you are following and listening to, right? Like, Google is available. We can, I try to make sure I'm not talking in silos, having the same thing echoing back. So right now, I'm just gonna challenge this audience. So I can be up here and talk about, I'm gonna use LGBTQ issues. Unless you have been under a rock, this administration is targeting trans people. Trans people are doing nothing to bother you in your life, period. And so when I think about, there was an article that came out that said more people have seen a ghost than know a trans person. But what I say is, it is hard to hate someone up close. So when you ignore that, and I listen to black radio and this stuff is playing over and over again, I would ask that you also educate yourself about all issues. And so when you think about who you're following, this is just my ask. Are you following like a Hope Giselle, a Dominique Morgan, a Monroe Elise, Marissa Miller? These are black trans women who are leading across the country, who are speaking to issues that impact you as women, as black women. Are you following T.S. Madison, who just interviewed Nene Leakes, where we will have a battle and a beef between cisgender women and transgender women, when I'm like, there should be no beef and no battle there, right? And so what I would just offer is, you are able to also diversify what you are getting back, because social media and that algorithm will keep feeding you the same things. So I will say, for my community, I'm available, like, follow queer_Nick, N-I-K. But I will say that because I would ask that you get outside of what you're used to in that Explorer page or TikTok, where you are getting your news from now. Also make sure you're following other voices that are speaking out using activism and social media platforms and music and fashion to also speak to the causes.
Thank you.
Even Glorilla was talking about God. So people are doing it.
Amen. Jermichael McCoy here, member of the National Urban League Young Professionals. I have a question for my brother, my frat brother of the Noble Clan of Kappa Alpha Psi, Jamal Bryant. Can you, as a leader at the intersection of faith, black folks, and economic development, can you talk about your church's unique role in addressing some of the cross-generational needs, from employment opportunities for young people, but also housing for our elders?
No, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for that. I think that the church is trying to catch up The church, and I'm speaking in generality, not in specificity, the black church has been on the sidelines for the last 25 years. And they're trying to find their way back into the conversation. There are only two places in history where the black church was not leading the movement. It was the Black Power movement and then Black Lives Matter. Every other time it was birthed out of the womb of the black church and had a black person as a spokesperson. I have said often that the black church found itself in a quandary with Black Lives Matter because it exposed that the church doesn't know how to support what it doesn't lead. And so the church has got to figure out, how do we come in and walk alongside, and walking alongside doesn't mean to just be up front. So the church, your local church has to do an anthropology to match its theology, to see what is happening in that culture, what is happening in that environment. So the black church has a role that we don't own up to in gentrification. Because these white people are coming into black communities, buying up property that's down the street from the church. And so we got to think on, how do we build beyond the fellowship hall? How do we do something beyond getting a new steeple, but really doing community development? What the government is not doing, the church has to do. And I embarrassingly have to say that the black church may need to take a model from the Black Panther Party.
Yes.
To say to be relevant is to grow your own food. To educate children after school is over, to protect our seniors, to watch the police. J. Edgar Hoover said that the greatest threat to democracy was the Black Panther Party, and here's what's important, Fred. At that time, the Black Panther Party only had 300 paid members. The reality is, how many mega churches are not a threat to the FBI? So we got thousands, but we are no threat because we're not doing any real community involvement and engagement. And so you don't have to do anything large. You just have to do something meaningful. And what I say to pastors all the time is, Dr. King never pastored a church with more than 350 members. So it is not the size of the congregation, it's the size of the vision. And so if you can do something that really matches what the community needs, then the community will speak. And I'll close by saying, Desmond Tutu said, at the end of the year, the poor people in the community should vote to see if the church is open the next year. And so if the poor people in that community voted, 3/4 of our churches would have to close. So we got to figure out, how are we addressing the needs of our community? Because a lot of our churches are doing worship, few are doing service. And so we've got to do both of them.
That's good. As we ready for the next question, I just want to acknowledge, do another personal point of privilege. Our brother Jeff Johnson has joined us. Jeff, stand up and wave to the people. Cleveland's own Jeff Johnson. Yes.
Hi, my name's Yumeno Young. I'm a part of Next Philadelphia, but I'm actually from Cleveland, Ohio here, so happy to have conference here. I'm a Gen Z, so honestly a younger part of our movement. Our movement is closer to the higher range. So I'd like to know what you guys think about kind of taking care of that generational backup. No disrespect, everyone looks good, but but I want to know. I talk to my peers and they're like, oh, you know, no one's listening to us. They think we're complaining. I'm happy to be in a senior level position in my work, but I know there's not a lot of people like me. So what could we do without, you know, starting a fight or separating out into influencers and young professionals kind of thing?
So let me first say, we need everybody, because everybody has a role to play. Let's level set on that. I was on a Zoom call about 2 weeks ago, and Jamal Bryant said something that thoroughly unsettled me. He recounted, and forgive me, I hope I say it correctly, he recounted a conversation he had just had with Ambassador Young, in which Ambassador Young told him, Jamal, I hope it only gets as bad as it was, because if it gets any worse, I don't have a point of reference for you. I can't coach that.
That's so bad.
Ambassador Young said, I hope it only gets as bad as it was. Jamal, I can tell you how to handle that. But if it gets worse than that, I don't have a blueprint. I can't coach that. So to the point wherever the young lady just went, everybody has to be a part of this moment. Because Andy Young is telling us, if it gets worse, he necessarily can't lead us out of it. So there is no person who holds no one has the playbook. No one knows. And I believe it is about to get worse before it gets better. So then what do we have to do? I've been saying this all across the country because we spend so often we spend so much time talking about the problem. What I have said is this. First of all, black people in America should be sleeping in shifts. When I am asleep, you need to be up. And when I'm up, you need to be asleep. Because the ill people are never asleep. They seem to always be up. They seem to always, 42% of Project 2025 is done, and we ain't even got to the end of the year. 42% is already done. All of the civil rights gains we made have been rolled. Y'all, 60, 70 years of civil rights gains have been undone in 7. I'm insulted. I'm angry. All of those years, all of those who we know sacrificed so much, and they just came and wiped it out. We got to sleep in shifts. Disorganized truth, as Pastor McBride always says, can never beat organized lies. We have the truth, but we are disorganized. We are stuck at the education. We don't know our lane. We're doing the same things. Disorganized truth cannot beat an organized lie. They are lying, but they are organized. They are lying, but they're organized. They are lying, but they are organized.
Come on and preach, Vince.
And so the question becomes, when we leave here, what are we going to do? Everybody got to go start sleeping in shifts. At the end of this plan, I'm gonna stand in the back room. Anybody that want to sign up for the party of goodwill, I'm gonna have a clipboard. But it's gonna require more. Angela and I talk about this every night. We go back and forth about this every night. It is not enough. I am seeing up front and center what these people are doing in Washington every day. I am unnerved. I don't talk about it because it unnerves me in a way that I've never seen before, and they are not playing. Y'all heard what our sister Stacey Abrams said about the 11 steps or the 10 steps of autocracy. If you didn't, Stacey Abrams said this week we are at step 9. There's only one more step to go. We got to keep the main thing, the main thing. We got to tie the rail, hammer the nail. We got to go from strength to strength in this moment. And so to the sister who just asked a question, you are as much a part of the moment and the work as anybody on this stage. You have as much ownership and responsibility as anybody in this room.
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, AT from New York. What can we do to avoid suboptimal outcomes? Is the question. What I mean by that is, if you think about Ruth Bader Ginsburg, President Obama asked her to step off the court a couple of times, and she rebuffed him, and that led to the appointment of a Supreme Court justice for life that I think that is very difficult to accept. Same thing with President Biden when he was elected at 77. We knew he would be 81 4 years later, is what the math suggests. And we had an option of a woman vice president. And it appears that in both of these two individuals who were dying, there was a resistance to another option. And what can we do to avoid what many people describe as liberal racism?
Now, you didn't ask 5 questions. Y'all pick one, because we still got 6 other people. Suboptimal outcomes, liberal racism, and the suggested math. Y'all pick your choice.
81, to be exact. No,
Anybody?
I just really quickly, I think, I can only think about this. I'm in my lane. And my lane is where I'm trying to understand the moment, trying to give us language to imagine the next moment differently by looking at the past, right? We have to admit we have modern day copperheads. Now, what is that? Y'all like, what does that mean, Dr. Glaude? Well, who were the copperheads? The copperheads were the white folk who didn't believe in secession, but they believed in the justification for slavery. Mm-hmm. So they fought for the Union, but they believed in the ideology that organized the South. So we got a lot of modern day copperheads. That is to say, they don't believe in what the Republicans are actually doing. They're not with what Russell Voigt is, but they actually understand what's motivating the underlying effort. You see, they agree with that in some ways. And part of that involves the Democratic Party's ongoing effort to think that fascism, that white nationalism, is just as dangerous as socialism.
That's right.
That these white nationalists are just as dangerous as those who want health care, universal health care, a living wage, right? And this goes all the way back to the 1920s and 30s, really quickly. It goes all the way back to this effort by FDR. They got to, hold off Hitler and hold off communism all at the same time. The Democratic Party, these New Deal Democrats, these Clintonites, however we want to describe them, they've always tried to engage in triangulation where they want to hold off its left wing at the same time as it wants to hold off the right wing. And we find ourselves in that moment, right, when we think we're in a moment of transition where they will say, do we want Mamdani or do we want Cuomo?
That's right.
And what are they saying? Or do we want Eric Adams? What are they saying? That has a long history, y'all. And unless we understand it and orient ourselves properly to it, we're going to fall for the okie doke again.
Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Raquel Armstrong. I go by Rocky. I'm the National Leadership and Training and Development Chair for NULYP, but I'm also an assistant professor in educational leadership and policy at Arizona State University. Born and raised here in Cleveland, but in Phoenix. And I write about and research how identity influences how we define self-care in the midst of leadership. But I find myself in the same, idea where all these things are being dismantled and now running for public office and back in the same circle. And so my question is, how do you all model what self-care really looks like and what you do in the midst of this fight? Not just from the one who does it for a living, because I also want to hear from the people who are in the group.
But the problem, sis, is the question is long and there's not that much time, and you still got a couple of people after you. So we're gonna tap in, Jay, and if we have time at the end, we'll get to it.
Got it. Okay. How you actually model this, and what suggestions you have, because like you said, we have to be. Sis, if we're not the meal, we're at the table.
It's just disrespectful. So thank you. We heard you.
I got it. Thank you. I want to say to you, Professor, I answer as a hypocrite who has not really perfected, perfected balance. But a writer whose name escaped me said that we have to stop using the term balance and start looking for harmony. Balance suggests equal weight. And if you keep trying to put everything in equal weight, help me, Dr. J, it's not going to work out. Harmony is the whole symphony. You got a clarinet with a trombone, with a violin, but their sounds are able to come together even though they don't have the same volume. And so I've been endeavoring to find harmony because I've surrendered that I don't have balance. And it is a fleeting ideal to have balance. And so many of our young leaders who came out of Ferguson, who came out of Baltimore, came out of Chicago, hit a brick wall. And I want to tie your question to our previous sister's answer, is we have to extend some grace, Dr. Glaude, because we don't have models of succession, we have models of assassination. And because we've only had to step in because of assassination, we have not seen what succession is supposed to look like. So this is the oldest leadership we have ever had in the history of black people because they have outlived the bullet. And so we've got to figure out how do we escape being in a trauma reflex.
My good brother did it. That's it. That's all I got.
Good afternoon. My name is Ifeolu Claytor. I'm on City Council in Shaker Heights, just outside of here, outside of Cleveland. I'm also Public Policy and Advocacy Chair for Urban League Young Professionals here in Cleveland. My question is, in this time when we are seeing Gen Zers that are not ascribing to religion and or organizations like the Urban League and the NAACP, as you all mentioned, how do we defeat that apathy that we see in our generations and bring millennials and Gen Z folks into organizing?
Y'all praying about it? We gotta go. You're almost out of time, Nick.
Okay, is it working?
Yes.
Yeah, it's working. So this is probably not, I'm not gonna put this on my organization. So this is Nick Harris just talking, not on behalf of the Human Rights Campaign. What I have seen happen in community was when I was trying to warn about this, it was fake news. They're equal, they're both just as bad. I hate to say this, but I'm watching it be broken so badly that folks are now suddenly showing up, right? Because they didn't believe it when we were talking about what was going to happen. So I will just say that right now, it's sad that it's taking it, you know, when it impacted just LGBTQ plus people, when you didn't care when Roe v. Wade fell, when you don't care that they want to revisit Obergefell. You didn't care until like, you know who is sitting as president of FAMU, right? Or you will only care when it comes knocking on your door. And so I hate to say that's what I'm seeing wake people up in ways that they're like, you know, Nick, I know you were trying to talk about this, but I'm like, sometimes it takes it visiting your doorstep that I am seeing our numbers increase where folks are like, maybe I do need to be involved in a different way. I just wish the house wasn't on fire for folks to recognize you should have been there when it was time to vote. You needed to vote with me and not against your interests because you thought it wasn't going to impact you. You thought they were just coming for me, but they were coming for all of us. So I just don't want us to wait that long to wake up. So the fact that you're here right now, you're proof that folks are here. And so how do you leave, back to my original point, and make sure that your tribe comes with you as you get involved with the Urban League and everybody else to do this work with us?
Thank you, Nick. So this has been really great. We appreciate all of your questions. We're gonna leave you all with a call to action. We end our Native Land Pod show every week with the closing call to action. So I'm gonna start with my brother, Dr. Jay Barnett.
I'm gonna be very brief. I think the call to action, Dr. Bryant said it so eloquently. Balance does not exist, and what I challenge individuals that in this very unsettling atmosphere and this sort of unsettling time politically is look for pace. Look for pace. You know, it's going to be a long journey, and again, we don't know what the journey holds. And I will encourage you, young professionals, get connected to some seasoned people. I love this quote that my mentor, or this adage or proverb, I can't remember, but he says the young man has all the energy to run the road, but the old man knows the road. Get with some people that you can go the distance with as you are navigating this space politically, mentally, psychologically, because not only is it impacting us from a political perspective, psychologically, it's impacting us in a great deal. And so find pace. Know when to say, you know what, maybe this fight is not mine. And being able to choose yourself in a time where they're not going to choose you.
Yeah, I think Dr. King framed it best, the new definition of service. I think really understanding and defining how you can serve. Service doesn't mean you need a title. Doesn't mean you need to have a political office, but figure out a way in which you can make an impact in your local community. Don't always aim high to think you need to be at the national level or running for a city council. You have things that are happening directly in your everyday community that you can make an impact. And don't attach it to say, I don't want to be associated with the NAACP or the Urban League, because police brutality is going to impact you despite what your title is. Right. So figure out a way in which you can serve and make an impact locally, and really let that be your first step to making your voice known and making an impact locally.
I would say I'm going to actually tag on Mel Robbins and the 5-second rule. Just do something. do something when you get up and leave. You could do something. We have our phones out all the time. Just do something. Take the first action. We don't get to a testimony without the first 4 letters, TEST. This is our test and our time. We are looking for the leaders that are sitting in these chairs because we're already doing this work, but to the point, what's the succession plan? And so we're tapping y'all in and saying, just do something right now.
Thank you, Nick.
Stay out of Target is all I wanted to say, please.
Yes.
Thank you so very much. Stay out of Target is our marching orders is only use your dollars where you find your dignity. Otherwise, find another healthy option and stay out of Target. And stay out of Target.
Keep it simple and make
stay
it
out of
plain.
Target. Thank you.
We like
And
it.
Dollar General. And stay out of Target.
One more time. Some years ago, James Clyburn told me something I've never forgotten. He said, Vince, if your house is on fire and you're not home, you can't help put out the fire. If your house is burning and you are not home, you can't put out the fire. I would ask all of us to find our home right now and help put out the fire. If your home is in the Urban League, put out the fire. If your home is in the Target boycott, put out the fire. The NAACP, wherever your home is, we need you to come home and help put out the fire.
Good, Vince.
We're in a moment of freedom snatching. These folk believe that freedom is their possession to give and to take away. The response to freedom snatching is freedom dreaming. Everything that has been said is true. But one of the most important battlefields is the battlefield of the imagination. We have to imagine a different way of being together. We can't imitate the past. The past is the funded experience that allows us to invade the future with more than luck. Bring the fullness of who you are and freedom dream so that we can actually get on the other side of this.
I love it. Y'all, let's give it up for our panelists. Dr. Eddie Glaude Jr., Vincent Evans, Reverend Dr. Jamal Harrison Bryant, Dr. Jay Barnett, Nick Harris, and Gennaro Stewart. Y'all, thank you so much. Give it up for yourselves. Enjoy the rest of the conference.